to make your ambassador program and community super successful and grow the revenue that you're putting into for your company and your brand. So, a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, and that's recruiting your best ambassador team in your community. I'm going to talk about community a lot throughout this, because one thing you'll find is that your ambassadors will yearn for that interaction, camaraderie of sorts, being that they have a commonality with your brand and their lifestyles. So we're going to find out, who is your ambassador? Who is your ideal candidate? Who do you want to recruit? And once you figure that out, we want to tailor and customize the application for your brand and getting that application and recruitment campaign out there. We want to set you up for success by making sure it's exactly what you need for your brand. We want to get your recruits really excited about their new role as an ambassador to represent your company. So we'll talk about all that onboarding excitement, but also, some other things where, onboarding or rejections. And a lot of this will come into play with this recruitment aspect. And of course, for me, communication is key. It is something that no matter what part of the ambassador process you're going through, whether it be recruitment, onboarding, activities, rewards, social media, reporting, getting people to apply, reapply, communication is what's going to keep your ambassadors engaged. And this is everything that I have learned over the many years, that communication is what they want and what will be a big success driver for you. And then finally, we'll talk about longevity, somewhat like the ambassador life cycle of your program, how long you want your ambassadors' term to be. Do you want them to reapply? Different areas like that. So to start, who is your brand ambassador? Who are you going to target? I'll say, in my early days of starting a program from the ground up, I was pretty hung up on the who and the why. I had check boxes of big influencers, huge social media presence, big time bloggers, and then all that changed when the word got out about our program, and we were getting most of our inquiries from customers, super fans, brand loyalists, and cheerleaders. I took a step back and thought, of course, our customer base is our best brand representation. They own the brand. They know the company and its core values for the most part, and they really want to share it. They want to share it with their social following online. They want to share it with their communities, at their gyms, at their book clubs, at wherever that may be. So that's what we did. That's what worked best for our brand. We put it out there to our customers. And that's when we opened up the floodgates. And while we, or I should say I, reviewed every single application, I did have my rejections as well. So we say we want everybody, but there's always going to be your rejections. And I'll get back to that later. But I also had an incredible new understanding of the people I was accepting into the program. I had the spaces to fill in my program. So I had the budget to fill those spaces. And sure enough, they got filled. So keep in mind, as you have, whether it be 50 or a couple of hundred spaces to fill in your program, let's look at getting those slots filled. You can fill them with your customers, your brand loyalists, your super fans. And guess what? Along the way, your big social media influencers, they're going to start showing up. They're going to be knocking at your door because they're going to see what's happening with your brand and who's representing it, and the word is going to get out. And that's the beauty of it. So you can essentially accept almost everyone and fill those slots. So in order to get the brand loyalists and others, of course, you need to get the application going. For me, this was huge, as I was previously putting applications through a survey. And as surveys are great tools, but I needed something integrated with a whole ambassador portal. I love the fact that I could tailor the application to fit our brand, ask the questions that meant something to us, and get the social media data and maybe a little more. So think about what you want in someone who represents your brand and ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to say what is mandatory to join. I find that they're going to apply anyway, and that gives you a great opportunity. And what I mean by that is even if they don't meet the mandatory requirements, and you will probably reject them, they're going to go back and make sure they take care of it, whether it be setting up their social accounts to be public, buying the product, whatever that may be. Okay, so knowing that you have to get this application so fine-tuned for your company, it's going to take time. It's also going to take time to receive those responses, time to review, and time to onboard them. So keeping that in mind, my job actually became a full-time job managing my ambassador program. And I loved it because the one thing that you will find out that while just going through the application process, you will get to meet the most amazing people and read some truly inspirational stories. So know that if you want to build a community, it'll take the time and the management. And, at this point in time, I've done this for, a fair amount of brands. I've done many different types of applications. And you're going to get to a point like I did where I really got it down to a science of vetting my applicants. But know that you need to take that time. And we're, like I said, we're always there to help you in managed services. So keep that in mind as you go through this whole process. But before I want to move on, I do want to bring up with your recruitment campaign, how are you going to call out to your future ambassadors? We pretty much did it all. We sent an email to our whole customer database. And you know what? That could be, depends on your database. Could be 50,000 people, could be 10,000 people, who knows? But you need to prepare for that when you send out to your full customer database and email marketing. We also did social media recruitment. We put it out there on Facebook and Instagram. We did posts. We did stories. And then we also had our current ambassadors share the recruitment as well. Because if they're going to share their love of the brand and the product that's being sold, guaranteed they have people who follow them that now want to be an ambassador. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So we also had a page dedicated on our website to our ambassadors recruitment with some great photography, links about program requirements, and then of course a link to the application itself. So think about how you're going to recruit. Then we have onboarding, but I'm actually going to start from the bottom here. Let's talk rejections first. And I know that's odd, but believe it or not, rejections are not a bad thing. I can't tell you how often I would go back and forth about a candidate. And honestly, if I had to do that, I've learned that I should just reject. If you don't know right away, you probably will want to reject and bite the bullet and accept, depending on what you're, wavering on. So why would I reject? Well, first and foremost, if you don't own and love the brand and the product, how can they share genuinely on, whether it be with their online community or face-to-face community? You want them to share their love for the product and the brand or whatever it may be that they're representing. So first and foremost, if you don't know and own the brand, I'll reject. But with that, I'll give them a really nice discount code so that they can purchase a product or whatever it may be and get to know it so that they can come back and reapply. Maybe they have their social media locked down. Everything is private. I can't access their accounts, or I've got wrong links. I can only spend so much time searching through Facebook and Instagram to see if I'm getting the right person. I'll have to reject. Or maybe they didn't answer the application fully. I need to get to know you, because getting to know you is going to tell me exactly how you're going to represent my brand. And that's really important to me. So all these people, they may look at your rejection and say, oh, okay, yeah, I want to get this product. Or, you know what, I got to open up my social accounts, reapply or let us know, and then they can get accepted. So it's this great way to start pulling them into your community. And, if they applied in the first place, they're going to come back based on some guidance you'll get from the rejection letter. You're definitely still going to get your spammers and your stalkers who naturally, when you get hundreds and hundreds of applications, there's always going to be some strange people, and just reject them and most likely they won't come back. So let's get to onboarding your new recruits. Best day ever. My ambassadors were always anxiously awaiting that letter, and that letter is key. Have the excitement and the information they need to comfortably get started. Make sure you have links to your program guidelines, registration to Brand Champ. Tell them what Brand Champ is. These are new, ambassadors. They may have never used an ambassador portal before. What is this new application that they have to be, put their information in? So what are their next steps? You're definitely going to want them to register, set up a profile, and get them excited about announcing their ambassadorship. So be ready with having activities for them and maybe some rewards or a welcome gift. Are you going to give them a discount code to share? Are they going to get a discount code? So there's a lot of things that you want to provide in your welcome letter. You want the detail, but you don't want to overwhelm them because it can be as a new ambassador. So then you got to think about, okay, here's my onboarding time management. You need to really think about how much time you can put into, you've hit maybe a mass approval to bringing these ambassadors on board, but what happens next? Are you going to follow through to make sure that they did their registration and profile? Um, maybe some people decided to opt out or they didn't get your email. What is your follow-up going to be? And to me, that's really important because they want that connection. They want that personal experience, but they also don't want to be overwhelmed. So just have a really good methodology to follow up with your new recruits. And you'll find that when you do have that follow-up, whether it be just, hey, you didn't do your registration and profile, people be so happy that you reached out on such a personal level. And next thing you know, you start seeing those activities going through. So one area that I think is really, really important is if, getting your system set up or with new recruits is some tags and tiers. If you haven't used them before, or maybe you thought about adding them to your program, let's take a look at some examples that will also help direct your ambassadors, but also help direct your communications and your activities. So while this is not any of the brands I've worked with, this is part of our demo site, but it's a really good representation of how you can tag and tier your ambassadors. And so let's think about like those 25 women that I started off with, what was that, 6 or so years ago? Well, now there's over 1,500 ambassadors in this program. One person to manage that, it's pretty tough. So about 20 of those women are still in the program, and they are my mentors and my leaders. So I'm going to give them a tag, a higher tier, to be in the program. So they'll be maybe a VIP or a tier number 1 or platinum or gold, level. For us, we called them captains. They were the leaders and the mentors. And you can see here we've got those tiers listed, VIP. Then I had a second tier. Those are your super fans. Those are, maybe your silver level or, whatever it may be. But those are the people who don't really want any more responsibility, but just wanted to, still want to be a part of the program and share as much as they can. And then I had a third tier. We called champions. They were every new ambassador joined as a champion, and because there was a lot to get to learn in this program, but they knew that they had the next 2 tiers, the pros and the captains, to look to for guidance. But I could also set up email communications based on these tiers as well as rewards. Now you'll also see here that I've got some other tags. I've got one called fitness and one called foodie, and one that is a date, May 20th. If I have a big program and I'm onboarding throughout the year, I want to put the month in that I onboarded them so that in 6 months to a year, I can run some reports and really understand what their activity is and maybe the communications. But as I'm also thinking ahead of setting up activities, I'd like to know, like, I may have a brand that, is not just focused on one lifestyle. So maybe I have people who are involved with fitness, or people who are foodies that love recipes and cooking or whatever it may be, or lifestyle or sustainability. As I'm going through applications, I'm going to tag these people, so that these ambassadors, so that when I have an activity or communication. Let's say I want to have someone talk about their workout plan, maybe for the new year. What is your new workout plan for the year? Well, a foodie who is more involved with maybe a food blog or recipes, they may not care so much about the fitness aspect of what I'm asking for, or vice versa. Someone in the fitness industry may not be someone who is so clever in the kitchen. So they may not want those activities based on, the food aspect. Great way to really personalize your rewards and your communication. So just something to think about before you onboard your applicants, to help kind of streamline your program. Now, moving on to what I said before, communication. So, communication is key. And I can't stress that enough, because it's what your community is going to yearn for. And that is what I learned throughout the years, that your brand ambassadors, they not only want to share with their following, but they want to share with you, the brand, and other ambassadors. So while we were pretty in the thick of communicating with our ambassadors, the more you communicate, the more they'll stay engaged. I'll even communicate on the level, like I said before, of a one-on-one email. Hey, you didn't set up your profile or your registration, whichever that may be. Um, and I do believe, that it's just important to put that little personal touch. In our group, by popular demand, we actually started a private Facebook group. And this Facebook group took on a whole new life. It became the heart and soul of our program. It's where we, as a company and a brand, we shared product updates, surveys for new products, even the color of a product or a print. We wanted the input from our ambassadors, because they're our customers and we know what they want. And so we were able to do sneak peeks on future seasons or new products. We were able to give them, little sneak peeks to sales, let them, so there was so much going on in this Facebook group from the brand's perspective. But from the ambassador's perspective, it became their place to share. It was their safe place. They were able to ask questions about products, the company, the ambassador program. They even shared training programs, race plans, workouts, downtime activities, food and beverage, health, things like that. They shared it. And that's how our community built bigger. It got bigger and bigger. Our Facebook groups even took on extra branches of regional Facebook groups around the country. So we had the Pacific Northwest, the Southeast, California had their own. And this is so that they could meet up. And if people were traveling, let's say from Colorado to Florida, I could join that group and meet up with people and learn, more about them and get to meet them face to face. So for us, a Facebook group was a huge aspect to our community. But I understand that a Facebook group could be a little labor intensive. So if you don't have someone to manage on a day-to-day basis, we can always help you. But just in case you really are unable to hit that type of communication, I do recommend something like a newsletter, a monthly newsletter, which would be great, because then you just set up a template and you insert every month maybe an ambassador feature, what your new product launch is, what your sale is, maybe a blog, whatever it may be. Get that out, because I would do that anyway, because some people prefer that once a month overview, or however it may be. Maybe community messaging is more along your lines. We tried Slack for some smaller groups, Google Chats, whichever it may be. Whatever works best for your brand and time management, I believe it's important to have that communication. And like I said, we can always help you with that. One tip I would absolutely just give with this, with communication, whatever forum you use, is to feature your ambassadors. They love to be shared. They love to be shared in a newsletter, in the Facebook group, however it may be. Give a shout out to your ambassadors. Maybe someone was out volunteering, cleaning up beaches, ran their first marathon, did their first weightlifting competition, whatever it may be. Give some shout outs. It's something that they absolutely love. It's part of that community, and people like to see themselves up there. So moving on, longevity. And, I say finally longevity, but actually it's not a finally because it really never ends. What is your ambassador's life cycle? What's the longevity of your ambassador's term? In all honesty, I used to mandate a once a year application window and launch, but after a few years of doing that and the demand for wanting to be in the program, we started monthly and eventually quarterly enrollments. Ambassadors didn't have to reapply. They pretty much dictated what level or tier they wanted to be based on how active they wanted to be in the program. Our mid-level, we had requirements of so many posts a month, plus, some marketing ones with sales. While the lower level, we did not have as many. And sometimes people just need to take a step back, but we were always there for them because we don't want to lose them. We don't want them to go somewhere else. So stay on board. Just, choose your tier. The owner of the company and I did take responsibility for who was in our highest tier because it was more of a privileged role, a mentor leadership role, and they actually had more responsibilities. So think about that as you go throughout the year and how you're going to, are you going to have them reapply or roll over? And then keep in mind that your mainstays, they just want to stay on and promote your company, but they can also do some more recruiting for you. So, it's definitely some things to think about as the tenure or, term is coming up, maybe a year, 6 months, whatever it may be. You may look at just having everyone reapply. It's totally up to you and how you want to manage your program. But we can certainly give you advice along the way on, what next steps would be. So with that, I think you can tell I'm pretty passionate about building a crazy successful ambassador program, especially a community of ambassadors. I could go on, and I'm sure there's some areas I barely touched on or might have missed that you may have questions on. So I'd like to open this up for questions and see how we can help. If we do run out of time, my email is on the screen, noelle@brandchamp.io. And, like I said, I've been doing this for many years. And through those years, I've consulted with companies to help establish programs. I've taken on the management of other companies' programs who just needed a little help and expertise. And that's what we do in managed services. There's so many different facets to it that we can really help you out. Even with, like I said, it could be just with recruitment. It could be with activities and rewards. It could be with managing your whole, ambassador program. You just let us know and we can certainly come up with something for you. So with that, I appreciate your attention to this, and I'm really excited to hear what you've got to say and any questions you may have. And I'm going to turn my screen sharing off and get you guys back into. Okay. All right. So how are we doing there? Did we have any questions? Okay, it looks like Brock. Oh my goodness, please tell me, did you guys see the presentation? I shared my screen.